So today, I want to start my talk with a short poem. It says, all that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only lasting truth is change. And that was written by Octavia Butler. This poem says some important things, doesn't it? You know, all that you touch, you change. Everything's always changing. And you are influencing how things change. And the big point is you too are impacted by what you touch and change. And that one big truth is that the only thing that is ever happening is change. So what are you touching and changing? What touches and changes you? Are you welcoming the touches that change you? Or are you defensive with those and resist them? Do you avoid them? You know, what would happen if we weren't afraid to be changed? We weren't afraid to be touched. We weren't afraid to be changed by the things around us. So since this is Mother's Day, I want to recognize that for most of us, the very first person who touched us physically and emotionally was our birth mom. Actually, that would have to be for all of us, right? That would have to be for all of us, right? So if we weren't raised by our birth mothers, though, almost all of us were nurtured when we were very young by the touch of our mothers or a woman who cared for us. For the most part, that's how life goes. So for simplicity this morning, I'm going to use the word mother to mean that person in everyone's young life who touched us physically and emotionally, but I do understand I'm way overgeneralizing, right? I get that. But that touch, that early touch, was so powerful and impactful. And think for a second about all the ways that your mother touched you and changed who you were and who you were to become. Take a moment to remember those touches. You know, perhaps your mom, you can remember, taking your hand across the street, right? I think Ellen referenced that. Or maybe brushing your hair. Or, oh, that dreaded one. When they take their thumb and clean your face, right? Something else may come to mind, right, of how your mother touched you. But I can tell from the look on your eyes that you know what I'm talking about. There's a memory of the touch of your mother. They're memorable touches. And you learned a lot about your relationship with touch from that relationship. You either learned that you wanted to be more like that when you touched other people, or you wanted to be very different from that when you touched other people. You either leaned into being touched, craved more touch, or you kind of moved away from it, withdrew from touch, or something in between, right? Her touch changed you. And here's what I believe. I believe that our mothers were our mothers on purpose, to launch us into the experience of being us. And although Holmes, our founder, doesn't teach this, I believe that our souls chose our parents, our very parents' souls, to do this journey with. That's what I believe. In this lifetime, on purpose, that's what we chose. And if you ever want to talk more about that, let me know, I will. But for now, just know that I believe we were born into the situation we were born into because it was the perfect one for us, for our development. So that's one touch. But then there are always other people touching us and changing us too. Conversation by conversation, friendship by friendship. Social media posts and likes, those are touches too. Colleague to colleague, supervisors, roommates, partners, spouses, siblings, teachers, even strangers. Everyone whose energy field you share has changed you. And you have touched and changed them too. And some of those touches are remarkable and you can remember them. Some are downright, unforgettable, right? But then there are others that barely graze our awareness or we're not aware of them at all. But nonetheless, touch changes us. And touch has an impact on everyone. So I want to share about an impactful touch that I can remember. This week when I was thinking about this talk, I had a memory of someone touching me in a very, very special way when I was a little girl. When I was a little girl, there was this woman who lived next door to us, and her name was Mrs. Beaker. And I figured it out. I was probably Remy's age. I was like 6 or 7, somewhere around that. And Mrs. Beaker just seemed to see something in me that was special. You know, she was really talkative and friendly. And whenever we were in the backyards, when I was in my backyard and she was in her backyard, we would talk. And I was just a little girl talking to this adult. And you know how much I love to talk, so I was always talking to her across the fence. And I was this little girl, and she was just grown up. I would tell her stories about what I was doing. I always wanted to tell Mrs. Beaker everything. She was just so friendly to me. I can still remember her little bright face and her smile. You know, we moved away from that house shortly thereafter. I think in the second grade we moved. And I always wanted to go back and visit her. I remembered her as a little girl. I wanted to go back. She had touched my heart in a very special way. I felt like she really saw me, right? She saw me, and that was special to me as a 6-year-old. In fact, I hope our children out there feel like we see them. Let's make a point to see them, because it's really important for little ones to feel touched and seen, just like Mrs. Beaker did with me. Because every person you interact with, you touch. And what you touch, you change in some way. You know, in one of the classes I taught earlier this year, I was doing a lesson about how big our energy fields are. You know, our bodies are rather small compared to our energy field. They extend out beyond us. And our energy field is always touching other people's energy fields. Even if we don't hug or touch in any way physically, we are touching them energetically. And these touches are imperceptible a lot of the times. Just a comment, or perhaps you turn your body in such a way and your energy field shifts, that touches other people. Maybe it's a smile, but your energy just bumped up against theirs, and it was either a positive charge, a negative jolt, or it was something neutral, right? What if we purposefully went about our lives trying to give everyone and everything we touch this positive charge? What if we purposefully went about our lives trying to give everyone and everything a touch of life-changing love? What would that look like? What would that love look like? You know, we teach around here that everything is either fear or love. That's what we teach. So if love is that positive energy touch, then fear would be that opposite negative energy shift, right? And perhaps it's true that we go around either touching people and things and situations with either love or fear. And if touching changes you and the other, and change is constant, then we have an opportunity to change everything around us for the positive. I can sign up for that. Can you sign up for that, right? You know, the old Greek myth about a king, his name was King Midas. You know, I'm sure you've heard the story, but I'll remind you. So King Midas had done this good deed for a fellow person, and a goddess gave him a gift. He was granted this wish by this goddess. And for his one wish, King Midas wished that everything he touched changed to gold. Right? Well, he didn't really think really hard about that, because he realized a little bit too late that every time he touched food, it would turn to gold. He was really happy until it came time to eat. And then he couldn't eat, so he was going to starve to death. So there's definitely a downside for touching everything and turning it to gold. But what if we were granted the wish that everything you touched turned into something else? What if everything you touched turned to your primary impulse? What would things become? If that impulse were love, would there be a downside? I don't think so. I don't think so. What would happen if you touched all of your relationships in your life with this greater expression of love? And what would happen if you touched every situation in your life with greater love and appreciation? How would your children react? How would your parents change? How would your neighbors change if you loved them in a greater way? What about your coworkers? What if your social media pages were nothing but just a flood of love and more love spilling out into the world? Would your friendships change if you became a love touch kind of person? how would things change? More importantly, how would you change? How would you change if all you were doing was sending out love? Because here's the deal, 1 year from now, next Mother's Day, your life is not going to be the same. It will not be the same. Everything will have been touched and touched and touched and shifted and changed for a whole year. You get to decide which direction everything moves in over that period of time. Is it going to move towards greater love, or is it going to move towards greater fear? Which is it going to be? It's going to be one way or the other. You know, sometimes we look around our lives and we blame everything going on something else, on something that has touched us. We've received a touch in some way. You know, Reverend Laine, that person hurt me, or this or that happened to me. Please know that I understand every single person in the room has been touched with fear coming at us from people who are also in fear. I get that. But our job as we heal ourselves is to stop passing the fear along to others. That's our job. Our job is to transform the fear we feel inside ourselves to love, and then to touch others with that love instead of that fear. You know, and if I'm really talking to you this morning, just start touching the easiest things and the easiest people with a more loving touch. You know, maybe that's your child or your best friend or Mrs. Beaker, whoever she might be in your life, or maybe it's just someone in this room, or maybe you can turn your loving touch toward a pet or a plant in your home. You know, start expressing love outward. And what happens is when you express it outward, it reverberates back to you, and it sprinkles your own heart with love too. And the more you start spreading love, the more love starts flooding into your experience, into your own life, because we know what we put out will come back to us. And if you're not in a painful place right now, then my invitation to you is to just let love loose. Just love even more. You know, find a way to be even more generous in your heart with your love and your gifts. You touch the people and situations you love in a greater way, because what you appreciate more grows. What you appreciate appreciates, right? You know, the world seems to be filled with so much fear right now. So much fear. And it needs as much loving touch as we can give. You know, think about the people in your life right now who are afraid. What are they afraid of? They're afraid of so many things. They're afraid of politics. They're afraid of brutality. They're afraid of being judged. They're afraid of everything. They're afraid of things related to health and this virus, and afraid of the government, and afraid of people. There's a lot of fear bubbling up around, and you can simply know that they have been touched by fear so much. And you can relate to that, but you don't have to accept it as yours. Ask Spirit to help you with love, touch you with love. When you pray, ask the divine love that breathes your body to move you to greater love. Ask for God to lift from your heart any anguish you may still feel about touch you have received in the past, or fear touches that you remember. Ask to have the remnants of any lingering fear to be transformed into your life to love. Ernest Holmes assured us that Spirit will join us in that, and we can change the world. Here's his quote: "For if the whole nation works together and prays together, a great moral and spiritual power and actual soul force will penetrate the whole world, help to bring confidence and calm judgment and right action until the crises shall have passed. Freedom never need be ashamed of itself, nor liberty bow to despair. God is always on the side of right, and faith will always conquer fear." He wrote this during World War II. Okay? So there was a lot going on back then too. Touch with love. Touch with love. Love changes everything, because love changes you. There's this author, her name is Valerie Carr, and if I don't say it right, I don't know, but she wrote this book called See No Stranger, a memoir and manifesto of revolutionary love. And here's what she wrote: "Love is more than a feeling. Love is a form of sweet labor, fierce, bloody, imperfect, and life-giving, a choice we make over and over again. If love is sweet labor, love can be taught, modeled, and practiced. This labor engages all our emotions. Joy is the gift of love. Grief is the price of love. Anger protects that which is loved. And when we think we have reached our limit, wonder is the act that returns us to love. I adore her line, if love is sweet labor, love can be taught, modeled, and practiced. I don't know if your mother taught, modeled, and practiced love for you as she touched you. What I do know is that we can start doing it for ourselves right now. Perhaps we teach, model, and practice love in memory of our mothers, or perhaps we teach, model, and practice love in honor of our mothers. And for some, perhaps we teach, model, and practice love even though our mothers could not. And in that case, maybe we will do it to remember or honor someone entirely different that taught it, that modeled it, and practiced it for us. But this morning I invite you to decide to touch with love. I want to bring back a ritual that we actually did 3 years ago. In 2018 on Mother's Day. I just thought it fitting to do it again. So on the table before you are roses and candles. There's a tiny candle for each one of you, and I have extras if I didn't put out enough. But as I said earlier, I lit the big candle as a light that symbolizes that sacred maternal love of spirit. And what I'm going to do is invite each of you to come up and light a candle in memory or in honor of your mother or someone else who touched you with love. So just think for a second about who you want to light this candle for. And just kind of simply say it out loud or silently to yourself, actually, for my mother or from whoever I choose to touch with love. Then I want you to take a rose, and then you can return to your seat. So please come up one at a time and do your social distancing and all that. But until we're all complete, just please honor everyone with your presence until we are all done. And Vicky's going to kind of play us through. And so I will go first. Happy Mother's Day to all of you, and to my own mother in Seattle who will watch this. I send a happy Mother's Day wish to her. I touch with love to honor you, Mom. And to all of you holding roses here this morning, I invite you to give this rose to your mother, if you see her today, or to someone you do see who needs your touch of love, and perhaps that rose is for yourself. So, thank you, and happy Mother's Day.